Today I'm going to show you how to start your battle by teleporting into a plane, and then we're going to jump into the game from the plane. So let's go over here, start our queue up. There we go. Brah, we're ready to go. 2, 1, teleporting. Any second now. There we go. All right, we're going to start the plane. Straight. All right, we scan out a little bit. And it's moving. Have it nice and smooth. When we get to that little house, that's going to be our drop zone. If you stay in, then the plane's going to drop you off the edge of the world. Drop in. Boom. Pretty cool. And this is where the battle would be. And we can watch the plane go. It will drop people right about here, but nobody's in there. And then it disappears. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our airdrop video. Now, you don't need a lobby to follow along with this video, but if you want one, I will put a link to this in the description. Let me go ahead and pull up the website. There we go. So I'll put this link in. You can go to these 3 dots. I made it copyable. You won't see all this stuff, but you'll see Edit in Studio. That will open up this game almost exactly like it. There's one thing you're going to have to change. You're going to have to go to View, and then right here where you see that little cog on the View tab, go down to Places. This is the Asset Manager. Yeah, there it goes. If you highlight it, it'll pop up. Open up the Asset Manager, and you'll have to add a map, right? All you have to do is right-click, Add New Place. When you copy it, you're not going to get that place. But there's nothing in here now. Another thing you're going to have to do, when you assume this is the place that you just created, copy ID to clipboard, and then you can come over to the sign-in under the workspace, configuration, place ID, pop it right there in the value. Now you should be able to teleport to your empty map. So from here on out, we're just going to work on the empty map, but that's how you get there. Let's open it up. I'll double click. I'll pause the video because it takes a little bit for this to open. Now this is my empty map right here. If you just created one and tried to teleport to it and you got some weird 700 error, Roblox didn't let you, make sure you save it off, right? Go to your file and then publish to Roblox, because there's a weird Roblox glitch that does that. And then maybe save your base game, try it again on the player, and then you should be able to teleport. You won't be able to do it in Roblox Studio. You can't teleport from place to place in Roblox Studio. All right, let's go ahead and build our map out a little bit. I'm going to move the world so the Z-axis right here is facing me, right? The blue axis right here. All right, and that way I know what front is. All right, so we should be facing, everything that you put in the world by default will be facing down the negative part of the Z-axis. So it should be looking this way. Let's go ahead and see. Let's get our toolbox. I'm just going to put like a little house out there like I did in the demo. There's my simple house. All right, now that's not facing down the Z-axis because I built it, right? But if you put a part in there, it should. All right, maybe center it a little bit. All right, let's join the game and see if we're facing our house. If we are, we know the default direction. That's going to make it a little easier when you start plopping things in the world, especially attachments and stuff like that. All right, good. So we're facing the right way. That saves a little bit of time. You're more than welcome to not do that. I turned off the player, and now I'm going to build a plane, but I'm not going to build out the whole thing. A lot of you guys can do better than me when it comes to building stuff. I'm just going to make like a platform and put maybe 1 or 2 parts on there so you know how it's done, right? So this is going to be our plane base. How about that? And then you can put walls on it and wings and stuff. Plane base. We're going to put our linear velocity and our align orientation on this part. Let's make it a little bit bigger. What do you got, like 4 here? Let's stretch it out and see what it kind of would look like, maybe as a plane. Maybe you make it as big as you want, but get an idea. What I want, that red one here. That's a pretty big cargo area. I think I'm going to go over here to size. Oh yeah, that's too big. I got like 47 here on on the Z. Maybe I'll make it like 25 on the Z. I'm going to make the part thinner. So on the Y, the second value, I'm going to make that like 0.5. And then this size here for 10, that's my X. I have 10.5. I think I'll make it 10. So I ended up with 10, 0.5, and 25. I think that'll work, right? You can make the plane as big as you want. Now, I want spawn locations on the plane. When we join the battle, when we first start playing, whether you have a lobby or not, even if you just like start, this is your start area, you're going to need a spawn location if you're going to control where you're going to go, right? You don't need it, but it's the easiest way. So for this plane, I think I'm going to make it a model, right? I right click, group as model, and I'll just say, how about plane? I'm creative like that. And I want to get this spawn location inside the plane base. I'm going to click on that plane base. I'm going to get the position of the plane base position. I'm going to go to spawn location and then Control V. Whoops, I got it twice. Control Z. There we go. Paste it in there. Now it's inside. This is kind of big, right? So let's make that spawn location smaller and let's drag it into our plane. There it is. The spawn is in the plane. And then I think I'll make it like 5, 0.5 by 5. That's pretty good. Let's pull it up a little bit. Yeah. I'm going to open it. I'm going to take that decal off. Maybe I'll make it like, how about diamond for material? Go to material, make it like diamond, whatever you want, but that's what I'm going to do. And then do collisions. I'm going to bump that down. Boom. Nice. Turn collisions off. Do a Control D to make another one. Yeah, maybe a couple spawn locations. Control D. You can make these transparent too. I think that'll work. I might make them even thinner than that. You could probably make them thinner than that. That's fine though. All right, now I'm going to weld these to my plane base. Remember, they're going to be moving, so I need to select all of them, turn the anchored off. Let's go down to anchored, uncheck. But we don't want them sliding around, so we're going to weld them. We're going to do a weld constraint. Click one of them. All right, click one and hit that plus sign there on spawn location. There's a weld constraint. I'll just go ahead and click part 0 will be the spawn location. Part 1, let's go to plane base. And then we're going to do that the same for the other locations. W, weld constraint, part 0, spawn location, part 1, plane base, and one more. W. Right, I probably could have gotten away with just doing 2, right? Whoops, I lost it. Planes or part 0, spawn location, part 1, plane base. Yeah, that's good. Now, when you join the game, you're going to land on one of these 3. All right, let's go ahead and try it real quick. Make sure everything's going. All right, there you go. Cool. Now we need to make that thing fly. You can make this plane fly a few different ways. You could do tween service, but the problem is you're going to slide off the end. You're going to need something to keep you in place. I'm going to use linear velocity and align orientation. So I'm going to go to my base plate, right? Everything is going to be, this is the base of the plane. If you build the plane out, you put walls on, build it onto this, right? So let's go to our plane base, hit the plus, and I'm going to get 2 attachments first. I'll get one attachment. I'm going to plop it in the default position. If I click it, we can go on up, take a look at that attachment. You'll see some arrows, that yellow one right there, and you get the orange one pointing up. So the yellow one is the primary axis and the orange one is the up and down. I'm not going to change anything yet, right? This one I am going to call linear velocity LV underscore ATT for linear velocity attachment. I'm going to add another one. I'll hit the plus, get an A. There's attachment. There we go. This one is going to be align. Oh, A. Align orientation AO underscore ATT. And you can use your own naming convention. I don't think that'll deviate from the video too much. So we have two attachments, or one on top of the other. Now I need to go to the plane base again, and I'm going to add, let's see, linear velocity. There we go. And I'll keep that name the same because I'm not going to have multiple ones. So I clicked on linear velocity. I'm going to go down to where it says attachment 0. Hit that area right there, right beside the attachment 0. And then click LV for linear velocity attachment. Sweet. All right, it's enabled. Make sure it's relative to world, right? That'll work. And then let's add an align orientation. We'll hit the plane base again, hit the plus. Oops, it's going to make me look for it. Align orientation. Sweet. Click on that. Now this one here, before we put our attachment on, I went up to the top of the properties. Going down a little bit, I am looking for align mode. And the mode, I'm going to make one attachment. So if you followed along on the elevator, I had two because I had a base, an elevator base, and that keeps the elevator and the base the same orientation. This one, we are going to align it with the attachment, right? And that way, if you want wobble, you just wobble the attachment, right? So we got that. Then I'm going to enable rigidity enabled. I'm going to click that. And then for my alignment type, I'm going to align on all axes to keep it stable. And you can play with these too, right? Just kind of remember what you have. Now I have to attach the attachment, right? So there's only one attachment 0 here now because we hit the attachment mode as 1, right? So I'm going to click on that. And then what is this? This is the align orientation, AO. Sweet. That's pretty good. Now we're ready for a script, right? And we're going to try and place that plane where we want it and see if these are the way we want, or we might have to align our orientation attachments and our linear velocity a little bit, but I think we'll be good. Let's hit plane, hit the plus, add a script, a server script to the plane model. And then let's just call that fly. Let's make this big so you can see it. There you go. You should be able to see that, right? Let's get a variable for our plane. That'll be easy enough, right? Local plane equals, and we'll do script.parent. That's the model. And then we want to get the root part of the plane. Root part. I'll say plane, and that is the plane base. Right? And now that we're thinking about root part, let's go over to the plane, right? There's my plane, the model. And then I'm going to go down to primary part, click that. And then we'll go to plane base. Boom. So the plane base is going to be our primary part or root part. I like to call it root part because I work with humanoids a lot. So the root part and the primary part are the same part. All right. And that's the variable for it. What else do I want? I want to get my LV, linear velocity. That's what I'm going to apply force to. I'll say root part. And on that plane base, which is the root part, we have a linear velocity. Cool. On the linear velocity, I'm going to set the max force to huge. That's like infinity. We won't get any higher than that. Oh, you know what? We got to do math.huge. Math.huge. There you go. I'm also going to zero out that linear velocity. I think they put a little bit of velocity on there by default. Let's take a look. We have our linear velocity and vector velocity here 0, 0, 0. So we don't need to set that. That's defaulted correctly. Let's move our base. So we'll get our start point. That's a vector 3 new, and we're about at 0, 0 on the X and the Z. Oh, well, 0, 0, 0, X, Y, and Z, right? I'm going to stay on the X axis, and I'm going to go far away on the Z. So the first number is X. Oh, I want to be in the air. So maybe we'll go 200 studs high. That's the Y. And then I'm going to go 1,000 studs on the Z. That's going to send me way back, but hopefully looking at my house, 1,000 studs away on the Z. And we'll find out. We'll make adjustments if it isn't. right? And then I'm going to get my finish point for the plane. I'm going to make it really simple. I'm just going to go vector 3 new. I'll do 0 in the X. We'll do a straight line. 200 studs. I'm not going up or down or anything. But then I'm going to go negative 1,000 studs on the Z. So we're going to fly right over. All right. And now let's move the plane to the start position to see if we're facing right. So we'll say plane. This is where you have to have your primary part set. We're going to do a pivot to, which is going to change the C-frame of the plane when we define a new C-frame. So I'll say C-frame.new. C-frames hold position and orientation. We'll do start point. Yeah. Let's try it out. Let's see. We'll hit the play button. We should enter the world and we should be pretty far away. Look at that. There's my house way out there. Now, if your plane isn't positioned right, let's go ahead and mess up the position a little bit to show you how to fix that. Right? So if we go to our AO attachment on the plane base, AO attachment, and let's just change it to see what we get, right? I just moved it like 60 degrees. We're going to go ahead and play it. Boom. Here we go. Oh, look at that. See? So we changed the orientation. Let's change it back. Right? It's 0, 0, 0 is the default. So it's no big deal. Down here on the AO attachment, I look at the C-frame orientation. I guess I had 45 on there. I must have just kind of clicked it back a little bit there. 45 degrees is good. So I'm going to make that orientation 0, 0, 0. And then see what we got one more time. So you get the idea how to move this around, right? If you want to change the way you're facing, you're going to change the align orientation. There it is. There's my house. That's pretty cool. And we could jump off. Boom. We should do parachutes at one point. Cool. Let's keep building our script. We'll go to the fly script. Now you don't want to start moving this thing too fast right off the bat. Remember, you have a lot of people potentially teleporting into your place. Or if you're starting a game, it's not as big of a deal, but they all have to start at the same time, right? That's the thing. So we have a group that's teleporting in. Can't be moving that plane right off the bat real quick. But maybe we'll just wait we could wait a second. Actually, let's do that in the loop. Let's do a loop for I equals 0. We'll go to 25 in steps of 1, 2. Then I'm going to wait a second. So we're not even moving for a second as this starts up. The server is going to start up when we teleport in because I have this set up as a reserved server. So you may have to make some allotments for that, some exceptions for that if you have something different. We'll do linear velocity. I get the vector velocity. And then I want to get my finish point, subtract the starting point. That's going to be the difference of the 2 points. I'm going to make that the unit vector so the magnitude is 1. And then I can multiply that easier. So let's start it out slow. How about 5 times I, right? So we have I times 5I basically. All right, that'll be 0. So you'll have another second where you can wait. That's a 2-second wait because this is going to be 0. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then eventually it'll be up to like 250. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good. But it gets there slowly. So it won't be too hard on the people trying to teleport in. Let's just wait. I don't know. I'll wait like maybe a second or 2. And then we should drop people, right? Let's do that. Let's drop people that didn't jump. And we could drop them in a death zone or we could drop them off the edge, however you want to do that. I'm going to do a for I and V in pairs. I'm going to make the plane so it can't hold people. So I'll say plane, get descendants. It's going to get all the descendants parts of the plane. And we don't need to put anything in there. Do if V is going to be the part of the plane as we're going through the loop, is a base part, right? And a base part is it's the parent of all parts. So things that you can hit in the world, even your arm and your foot and stuff like that, are base parts, right? Things that can go through things. If it is a base part, we're going to say can collide will be false. And then those are going to drop right out of that plane. Then we'll just maybe wait another second and destroy it. Let's just do that. Just destroy the plane. Game started, server started up, people teleported in. We are going to destroy the plane. All right, let's try it out. Let's go ahead and hit play. And we're going to go up in the world. There you go. We should start moving. We are moving. We teleported on that nicely. We're going to have to try it out in the player just to make sure. It should start speeding up. When we put a sound on this, it's going to be better. All right, so now we're going pretty fast. We'll jump out of the plane. I'll have like a door open or something. And then eventually we're going to be able to fall off. Maybe I should, there we go. We fell out. And the plane disappeared. I think we're not really at the edge. So we could increase our times. Maybe let's do this. Just have them wait like 2 seconds. And then maybe make this a little bit longer so you could see the plane go away. You want to do that? We'll just do like 3 seconds. All right, so you can play with that. See if you can get them to the edge or put a death zone in there or something. They don't jump, then they're kind of out of luck. I think the fly script is looking pretty good. Let's go back to our map and get the sound working. There's our map. There's our little plane or platform. And then we'll do toolbox. And then under our creator stuff, let's do audio. And I already have the plane engine in here. I typed in plane engine. And I'll do a check for this first one. There's a lot of good plane engines. I like that. And that's pretty good. And a lot of these are the exact same one that other people loaded. So we'll just go with that. We'll go with Zolur's plane engine, if I said that right. Let's go down to starter player. I'm going to open that up. Under starter character scripts, hit the plus, add a local script. We're going to play this for each player, right? So we got our local script. Maybe we'll call this PlaneLoc or something. How about that? PlaneLoc. And then with that selected, hit your insert. Boom. So you got the plane sound that just went right underneath. If it went somewhere else, you could just drag it underneath your PlaneLoc. I'm going to close this. I'm going to change the name to something simple. See if I can double click that. Come on. There we go. And then I'll hit delete. And then I'll do plane sound. Plane SND. I'll shorten the sound a little bit. Looking good. We want to loop it. So go and look for looped in the properties. Boom. The default volume is 0.5. Right. Just remember that because we're going to do some stuff with that with code. In your PlaneLoc, let me go ahead and click on that. That's what's open right here. PlaneLoc. I'm going to delete my print statement. And I want to get a reference to my player service. So I'm going to say local players equal game get service players. Then I'll get a local player from the player service. I'll call that player, right, with no S. I'll get the player service dot local player. Now I want to get the character from the player. I want to see how far away from the plane I am. I'm going to do my own roll-off. I'm not going to use the sound service, and I'm not going to use the sound API. Sound API is really cool, but also very complicated. Sound service doesn't quite do what I want it to do on the client. So let's go ahead and get the char, the character, from the player. So we'll say player dot character, but it might not be ready because this is in player character scripts. This is going to start firing off right when the character's entering the world. Might not be complete. So we'll say or player dot character added wait, which means wait for the character added event to fire so that the character is available and it could go into the char variable. All right, now we can get the humanoid root part from the character. We'll do a wait for child in case that's not there. It should show up shortly. Humanoid root part. right? Wait for child. And then we'll get the plane sound. And that's on the script, remember, right? So we'll do script. Well, that's being loaded too. So we'll still do a wait for child, right? Plane sound. And then let's get the plane. Now the plane will be in the workspace, or we destroy it at 1.2, right? Got to pay attention to that. So if it's in the workspace, we're going to do a find first child and look for the plane. That way, if it's not there, we don't wait for it. We don't want to wait for the plane if it's been destroyed. If you die and you come back, there's not going to be a plane there if it flew off the edge. Let's get a variable for the sound cutoff, right? Because we're going to do our own roll off. So we'll say cutoff equals, you want to make it 200 studs. We're 200 studs high, so maybe when we get to the ground, we'll stop hearing it. I'm going to change this. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Let's do a local function and call it check the zone. All right, we might want to have more control over this sound, so I'm going to put it in a function. Also, I want to check if not plane. So if we fail to find the plane, then just return. Do nothing. What else? Let's go ahead. We get to here. That means we'll play the sound of the plane. Remember, it's looped, so it's going to keep going. Let's roll the code up a little bit. We'll do a while loop. So while the plane exists and the humanoid root part exists, that might be unnecessary, but we'll do it anyway. Then let's get the root part of the plane. And the humanoid root part we got that already. So let's get how about local plane, what do I call that, base part? We'll call it root part. Right, that's the base, the plane base. So we'll do the plane. And should we do a wait for child? We probably don't need to. Well, we'll do a wait for child. And then I'll say, what do we call that, plane base? There it is, plane base. All right, we're going to get, how about our sound position? Where is the sound position? We'll call it sound POS. Well, that is just my plane root part position. Sweet. All right, we're assigning it to that. We're saying, hey, this is where the sound position is going to be. It's actually playing on the character sound. We're going to do that for our roll-off. And then I'll get my distance. The distance will be between the humanoid root parts position and the sound position that we said it's going to be at, right? There's our sound position. And then we'll just say magnitude. That's going to give us the distance. It's not going to worry about the points, right? It's not going to be a three-dimensional number or a three-dimensional vector. It's going to be a scalar, a single number, a distance, right? If the distance is greater than the cutoff, we'll turn our sound off. Let's go ahead and do a wait. Just wait a second, and then we'll turn it off. We'll say plane sound stop, and then break. All right, so we might be within distance, right? The distance might be less than the cutoff. So let's do an else. I'm going to calculate out the volume of my sound. Let's get a variable for volume. Local vol equals 1 minus the ratio of the distance over the cutoff, right? There's our cutoff. So this is going to approach 1. It's possible it could go slightly over 1, but we are breaking out of the loop if we get to that point. So if this goes negative, the volume will be 0. You know, the Roblox makes the volume 0. But remember, we have a default volume of 0.5. So let's put this in parentheses. And now the maximum it can be, a maximum the value could be, is 0.5. Because this will be 1 off. The distance is 0, then it's 1 divided by 2. That's the maximum, 0.5. If the distance is about equal to the cutoff, well, that's going to be close to 1 right here, which means this whole thing is going to be 0, which means this whole thing is going to be 0 or slightly negative, but that's all right. The volume will get cut off to 0 if it's negative. So we'll get our plane sound plane sound dot volume, set that equal to our volume. And then we got to do a little weight, but I'm going to keep that weight short because if we're close to our sound part, we want to adjust volume often. Now we got to call this thing, right? So we're going to go up here, check the zone, Control C to copy, and then we'll go down here and paste it. We can just type it, right? Check the zone. All right, I'm going to test the plane on the ground. So let's go up to our fly, and then I'm going to uncheck enabled so we don't fly, so we can check it on the ground. I'm also going to turn my volume down a little bit. And we have play. Here we go. All right, we hear the sound. When we go farther away, it starts to roll off. That's pretty good. Not bad, huh? Let's go back, see if we can hear it. It should kick out of the loop. So it's stopped. Nice. All right. And the reason why I put this in player character scripts right here is if we die right now, we'll respawn on the airplane if the airplane still exists. If this is in character scripts, it's going to fire up again. If it's in player scripts, it won't. So you'd have to do something if you died while the plane still existed. And let's go ahead and hit our fly. And then we'll enable it. Now let's try what a flight looks like. All right, here we go. We're on our plane and it's moving slowly. But then it'll start increasing speed. You could actually start it out a lot faster. I tried it a few times fast and you spawn on it okay. All right, let's jump off. We're at the battle zone. That's pretty good. We can even cut that sound off so that it stops mid-flight. You just shorten it, right? Shorten your cutoff. I think that's pretty cool. Now what we got to do is figure out what's going to happen when they die. If they die, do we keep them in spectator mode until the end of the match and then you could have them leave, or do you have them respawn? I'll figure that out for the next video. You can put comments in if you have a favorite one, and then we could pick that one too if I'm not like halfway through by the time I read the comment. All right, I will see you in the next video.